Kimarya decided to go after him so she wouldn't bring up that much attention. She walked forward and noticed that everyone had a strange reaction to her, but she just ignored it and walked forward till she was in front of the stone. She looked up at the elder named Shamaner, who looked back with a light smile and nodded for her to put her hand on the stone. For all my life I was a tree, just a normal tree, till that day when I was burning to death, until I heard the thrumming of a heavenly Tao. It was a sermon sung by stars, its reverberations permeating through all the trees, the animals, mud, and stones. A sermon talking of a magnificent and extraordinary Tao. My greatest plight and salvation came from a little round stone that fell from the sky. That landed in my trunk. That only brought me burning pain. And I would have most certainly been burned to mere ashes and embers had it not been for the fierce and horrifying storm that kept those fires from growing uncontrollably. Even with the luck of having a storm raging to combat the fires, it still burned me down to a mere stump. But as a treekin and child of the forests, my tenacity is strong. Even from a not very thick branch, I could still have hope for rebirth. After escaping that calamity and almost passing on, there was a mysterious stone that was still lodged inside of my trunk. I heard this whispering. It was the whispering of the cosmos. It told of a sermon that was transmitted through an indescribable humming that resonated with me and somehow made me grow strongly. This stone vibrated so strongly that it was even breaking my growing around it and thoroughly making it harder to cover it, but the sermon made my life force burst out of all limitations I had as a simple mango tree. Being a tree, we always had a limited amount of awareness of our environment. Time flows differently for those of the treekin. Before, the only thing that mattered was the connection to each other. This connection always let us know of the dangers any of us faced, whether a more successful nest of termites pop up, or skyfire strikes one of us with more rings in their trunks. It all just started with my asking of questions rather than always hearing and or exchanging info about my health. I asked, "Who am I?" The sermons and the stone were deeply imprinted into my mind and body. As the years passed and I grew more and more, its perpetual thrumming made it so my roots had a barely discernible vibration that it only showed evidence of itself when I drove my roots deeper into the earth. Rather than always going around stones, I wanted them out of my way, and so I pushed them. My bark grew strong and very dense, and my thoughts came faster and clearer. I stopped asking who I was, started listening, I stopped talking about myself, and just felt with all of my senses, and unlike before, I remembered everything even after a long while. I began to always surprise myself when I had new knowledge of things. This made it better to listen to other things because I could comprehend. I listened to the winds and said, "Hello?" I listened to the rain and asked, "How are you?" I noticed the creatures living on and around my bark and enjoying my fruits and told them, "I'm here." I followed the water landing on my leaves and down my branches and trunk as it made its way flowing down into the ground, following my roots before leaving me and melting deep into the earth that holds me. I told it, "Thank you." I became more aware as this Tao told me of all things in the world. It told me of humans, both mortal ones and cultivators. It said I could become one, but at that moment I didn't yet have an answer, nor reason to want to be one. At least until I saw my first human. They noticed my fruits on the floor, but climbed up and plucked several before going back down and leaving. With time, I was just happy and content, always watching the humans who passed by increasingly often around me, as well as always listening to the teachings of the Tao. Soon, new kinds of humans came. The teachings told me they were cultivators. They were capable of climbing or even jumping up to my highest branches with such ease to pick some of my fruits. I came to learn that these were the famed cultivators that I learned about who delved into the profundities of the natural and unnatural world. This went on for a while till one day one of the cultivators decided to sit down and cultivate under my leaves and was alarmed as they realized comprehension of natural laws was drastically much easier, and they stayed there meditating for days till weird manifestations occurred around them. She had long hair and a small frame and wore these robes. Her hair and robes fluttered, yet there was no wind flowing. After the manifestations stopped, they rose and left.